Hello my friends, welcome back to another episode of r/ProRevenge, where you come to hear stories about people getting what they deserve. In this episode, I've got two wonderful revenge stories. The first is how someone has their cushy career ruined by making one mistake. The second story is a very satisfying revenge that totally dismantles someone's life. And I know you guys like to hear stories where people get their lives totally turned upside down, so that's for you. I hope you guys stay for the two stories today and subscribe for future videos. Let's begin. This first story is titled, Scream at Me and My Friend in the Bookstore, Let Me End Your Entire Career. So back when I was in college, my pathophysiology class had a final project worth 50% of the total grades we can earn, and groups were picked at the beginning of the semester. This was a massive project that you were expected to start working on at the beginning of the semester, and if you thought you could do it all last minute, you were probably in for a bad time. It was myself, two other girls, and then this one guy that one girl was crushing on. She had to add him to our group because he was cute or something, I have no idea. I call him idiot every time I tell this story though, because he truly was an idiot. The girls were fantastic, and everybody pulled their own weight during this project, with exception to Idiot. Idiot never once did any of the group project work. He ignored all the messages through texting and Facebook, and would only answer the one girl if she was flirting with him. He would only show up to class maybe twice a month, if that. And he would constantly post photos of himself on vacations in Mexico or the Bahamas, and I'm pretty sure he spent more time out of the country than in it. 1 week before the project is due, he messages the group asking what pages in the textbook he needs to look through to do his part of the project. We tell him what he needs to do and where to find the information. We basically laid everything out for him, and if we did anything more for him, we would be better off doing his part of the project ourselves. Idiot thanks us and then disappears, and we all assumed he was doing the work he needed to do. We were all prepared to take a hit on the marks because if he didn't have anything done up until now, the quality of the work was probably terrible at best. So the project due date rolls around and he's nowhere to be found, and he's ignoring all of our desperate messages. Myself and the two girls go to the professor and tell her everything that happened, along with showing screenshots of the literal month's worth of conversations where we tried to get Idiot to come to labs with us, or the library where we offered to help him do his part. The professor was not amused. He immediately fired off an email to Idiot and CC'd the head of the program as well, basically saying that Idiot needs to do his part and show up to class with it, or he'll receive a 0 and the rest of us won't be affected. Can you guess what happened? Idiot was a no answer and no show, with no excuses or anything. The professor gave him a big fat 0. Turns out that he needed to do this project and do well on it to pass, as he's bombed every test, and with this failure, he was denied from passing that semester. I'm fairly certain he had to retake that course during the summer, which means he, or more likely his mom, had to shell out another $1,300 just for the class. A couple of months later in the college bookstore, Idiot and his mom, who we'll call Screamer, runs into myself and the other girls in the bookstore, and Screamer just loses it on the girl and I, yelling at us and saying we constantly harassed her son and she was gonna make it impossible for myself or the girls to find work. A little bit about Idiot's mom. She worked in the same field as our degrees were for, and she actually sat in the board of directors for the Public Health Alliance for the area. So she was a public figure, and a supposedly well-behaved and educated one too. She was escorted out by security shortly after, but that wasn't all she had planned. Screamer ended up dragging myself and the girls through every single college meeting they could schedule regarding our non-existent negative behavior towards her son, where he claimed he was constantly harassed, yet with no proof. It was literal months of this poor girl and I having to change our schedules for school classes and studying, so we didn't have any classes or happened to run into Idiot, as that's what the college demanded we do. It made our last 2 semesters living hell because we couldn't be anywhere near Idiot, otherwise we could face interdisciplinary hearings or worse. Now for the revenge. The security company that handled the contract for the college was also the same company that handled the contract where I used to work. I was extremely close friends with the night shift supervisor, like very close. We'd go out for drinks often and played video games together, that kind of close. So one night after I finished work, I asked him for a favor. I asked him to let me email the video surveillance of that encounter with Screamer to my personal email account. After I told him what happened, and on the day and time it happened, he drove me to the campus. He and I walked over to his security office where he worked, where they would have all of the recordings. He brought up the video of Idiot's mom in the college bookstore, audio and all, of her screaming at me and my friend. He recognized Screamer. It turns out she's done this before at a different site he patrols, and that he was told that he had to keep it quiet by his superiors. I told him he could be as quiet as he wanted, but I wanted to get my revenge on her. A quick email later, I was in possession of the video. I found out who the rest of the board members were over the course of a few days, and they were all sent an email with the video of Screamer going apeshit in the college bookstore, screaming at an obviously confused guy and a freaked out girl. The audio perfectly captured the moment where she threatened to make it impossible for me or the girl to find any work anywhere within that district, followed by her argument with security as she was escorted out. I never received any replies from the board members, so I just waited to see what would happen. Screamer was voted out from her position the following week after the video was shown during one of the meetings she was attending. She lost her very cushy government job, and the last I heard, she was working in an old age home according to a mutual friend. I'm not sure what happened to Idiot, but I did hear from the same mutual friend that he never did graduate and he works at a call center now. The girl and I ended up finding full-time work immediately after graduating and never had an issue there. Oh, and the security guard ended up getting hired by the RCMP, so I guess good things do happen to good people. I'm pretty sure most of us have been involved in group projects during our schooling lives, and there's always that one person who doesn't pull their weight and does way less than others. I remember this group project that I was stuck in for science one time, and this one girl didn't want to do any research. She just wanted to color the poster and decorate it. And there actually was no poster, it was a freaking PowerPoint presentation. And yeah, we were screwed. She knew nothing about that class. This next story's titled, "Oh, you had me living a lie for a year? Maybe I'll go ahead and dismantle every aspect of your life." Well, I was had. I've been took. I've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok. This is a trailer trash roller coaster. All aboard. I thought I was in a slightly tumultuous but overall fun relationship for a year. I had gotten out of a 12-year relationship when I met him, and he was so charming and handsome that I thought I won the lottery. He was super pushy about saying I love you first and defining our relationship. He introduced me to his family. His niece started calling me auntie. He tells me about his 3 children and their mothers, and lies about how the mother of his oldest hates him and is keeping him away from the kid. But then things started getting weird. His quote-unquote ex started calling all the time, multiple times a day. They had children together, but the grandmother apparently had custody. The lie I was told to make it seem normal was that the both of them had jobs where they traveled a lot, so they signed legal guardianship over to the grandma to make schooling and emergency issues easier. Then she moved down to the city we were living for quote-unquote work training. And then she was moving down permanently without the kids. When I asked why the kids weren't coming, the lie I was told was, they need to stay in the same school. They have friends there. They are 6 and 4. I'd say staying with parents is more important at that age than their peer group. It was weird, but I'm the cool girlfriend, and it wasn't my place to tell them where their daughter should live. His work was in the cannabis industry. Kind of. He worked with the ex-brother-in-law, going to legal states, buying pounds at a time, and trafficking it via USPS. So when he tells me he's going to Oregon, I think nothing of it. After a week in Oregon, a lot of the stories aren't adding up, like his phone's always dead, even though he carries a power bank with him. And then, one of his quote-unquote friends starts posting cuddled up selfies with him. I quickly put 2 and 2 together and dump him for cheating on me with this chick in Oregon. But the truth. After I dumped him, I made a messy Facebook post on his wall, which the mother of his oldest child sees, and she contacts me and lays out the truth. The truth is, he never contacts his oldest daughter, even though he has her cell phone. No one's keeping him from her. He owes $20,000 in back child support for her, as he's never once made a payment, and he moves around a lot and works under the table, so the mother was never able to collect garnishments or anything. He has a huge criminal record, and a lifetime of fraud, larceny, and drug charges that I knew nothing about. His ex, who moved to our city, was his girlfriend of 9 years, who was very much still in a relationship with him, and they willingly gave up the 2 children because they preferred to use drugs. Him, heroin, and her pills. His family knew and played along in the lie and included their 10 and 16-year-old children in the lie. His chick in Oregon is actually his lover from childhood, and every time they would try to be together, one or the other would end up in jail. And I was his side chick. This shocked me, so I paid for a background check, which is how I learned of their records. So the revenge. I profusely thanked the ex for telling me the truth about the situation. I mulled on it for a bit, trying to convince myself to simply consider myself lucky and walk away with my dignity intact. But then, he'd be winning. And I knew I had everything in my power to come down on him like Thor's hammer. So, I gave his ex all of his info. Social security number, state IDs, current and past known addresses. With this, she contacted her state's child support services. He will now have his driver's license revoked and can't get one, no matter the state he moves to, until he's current with his past payments. If he ever gets a real job, 25% of his wages will be garnished. He now has a warrant for his arrest in the state that his oldest kid lives. He's trying to play house with his new girlfriend and contacted the mother of his oldest to arrange a meeting with the kid and his girlfriend's child. The mother's playing nice and pretending it's a go, and he's planning a trip to visit his daughter. He will not see her, and at the meeting, he'll be seeing the police, and they'll arrest him for failure to pay, and he won't get out of jail until he pays a sizable chunk of the $20,000 past due, plus bail. I gave his ex the info the day before his federal tax refund was set to go out, and she was fast enough at getting this info to CSS, and they intercepted his full tax refund, and now for the first time, he's paid something for his child. I know the name of the business that his ex-brother-in-law owns, that he uses to launder his drug trafficking money, so I dropped a dime to the IRS, so he's losing his only steady income soon and can't get a job at Walmart due to his criminal record. And if he does manage to find someone that hires without a criminal background check, he'll lose a quarter of his paycheck. OP was right. That was a wild and one trashy ride. I don't know where to begin with this, but the revenge was pretty much well deserved. It's one of the most pro-revenge stories that I've had the honor of reading in a while. And that brings us to an end of another episode of r/pro-revenge. If you guys enjoyed the stories today, please be sure to leave a thumbs up and a comment. If you aren't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, and if I give you a heart, you can expect a puppy at your step within the next 1,000 years or so. See you guys in the next one.